I'm Paul Milligan from the Black Cat Group. We're having an Akaroa Day today. Thanks Peninsula Day. Hi, welcome.
Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Councillors, thank you very much for your time today. As the Mayor mentioned, I'm here on behalf of Black Cat Cruises, who are an award-winning tourism business based here in Canterbury, but hopefully most of you are already well aware of that. We submitted on 3 points, and I'll try and keep this as short as possible for you today. Firstly, we submitted in support of Christchurch NZ's request for additional seed funding. Tourism is New Zealand's #1 industry at the moment. However, Christchurch is still lagging behind, and of course we've got plenty of reasons why. Christchurch NZ's role in the next few years is going to be critical in helping to turn this around. We desperately need visitors to stay in Christchurch longer than just one night, which seems to be the average at the moment, especially for those of us operating in remote areas such as Akaroa or the Canterbury region. Major events is one way that can help achieve this. The city needs some life. It needs chanting fans walking down the street with black and white face paint because we've just thrashed Australia to win the Bledisloe Cup. It needs international music artists such as Ed Sheeran or Pink, who are currently bypassing Christchurch in favour of Dunedin. Even Nelson is getting an All Blacks test next year, not Christchurch. These sorts of events are not just good for tourism, hospitality, accommodation, businesses, etc., but they're also good for the local residents who can have something to look forward to. Visiting family and friends is a key market for tourism businesses around New Zealand. International guests coming to Christchurch seem to enjoy their time and they find plenty to do. However, it's actually the local residents who are somewhat discouraging or actively discouraging visitors, telling them there's nothing to do here. So giving these local residents something to do and a reason to encourage others to come and visit can be good for everyone. Not to harp on about Dunedin, but this week they're hosting Trends, the annual tourism showcase, where over 15,000 delegates are getting together, and it's a chance for tourism to promote itself to the world, but also a chance for that host region to really promote itself to those international buyers as well. I was delighted last week to learn that in 2020 it's going to be Christchurch's turn, so that is really something that we need to strive for. It'll be our chance to really let the international tourism buyers know what we have to offer and that we are ready. We've just got to make sure that we are actually ready. The other 2 points we submitted on are somewhat similar in their request, and that is to bring forward some funding that has been allocated for upgrades of wharves both in Akaroa and Diamond Harbour. Both of these, as I said, have had funding allocated, but I strongly believe that the council is missing an opportunity to save some money by bringing these projects forward. And what I'm referring to here is the expertise and equipment that has been in Lyttelton for the past 6 to 12 months building the new marina. The speed and professionalism that marina has been erected has been impressive. However, once that is completed, all of that equipment and expertise is simply going to sail off into the sunset. And then when council does get around to looking to do this work, not only is the cost of construction going to have gone up, but we're going to be forking out to bring all of that equipment back down here. You may say, so what? Just because the equipment's here we can't go and do the work. There might be an asphalt truck outside, but you're not going to go and fix that pothole next door to it. But both of the projects that I'm talking about have been identified as needing attention for some time, so I feel that we're just missing the opportunity. I'm not sure when the Diamond Harbour Wharf was actually built, but there's been a public ferry operating between Diamond Harbour and Lyttelton since 1888. Just because the wharf was suitable for a ferry service in 1888 doesn't mean that it's suitable today. Black Cat identified the boarding and disembarking of passengers at this wharf as one of our highest risks within our business. In conjunction with ECAN, we conducted an external risk assessment, and this assessment has backed up our concerns. The ferry is part of the public transport network. Public transport should be accessible to everyone. Currently, the facilities are a barrier to many, and these should be addressed. The wharf is council-owned, and the responsibility for public transport infrastructure falls with the council. The solution is quite simple, a floating pontoon rather than a wooden wharf structure. This, I believe, was being discussed between Council ECAN and ourselves back in 2010. We all know what happened in the following 12 months and why this was now shelved. However, I believe it is time to start having these conversations again. The last point relating to wharves as well was the funding allocated to the Akaroa Wharf. There's been much talk about the $11 million that's been allocated for a wharf upgrade in Akaroa, but to date there hasn't been much action. The current facilities that are over there were in place and deemed acceptable back in 2010. Since then, things have changed with the introduction of cruise ships into Akaroa. Not just the cruise ships and the tenders and the additional passengers, but also the increase in business, more tourism operators, just more demand being put on the wharf itself. I'm not proposing you bring the $11 million forward to this year, but just that you look at perhaps a quick win alternative, which once again would be to erect an additional floating pontoon on the south side of the wharf. This is not just the feeling of Black Cat with regards to a quick win over there for the council, but at a recent wharf users meeting, everyone in attendance was in agreement. Tourism operators, fishermen, and even Victoria Andrews all agreed that this would be a quick win for the council. Now that must be a first. This additional pontoon would not be a waste of money if or when cruise ships return to Littleton, and it would not be in conflict with any other future plans for the wharf itself. It would, however, provide the community with a lasting asset. I've mentioned on 2 separate occasions to the community board the chance to link in with the port company to complete these floating pontoons while the work was here. And I feel, unfortunately, that we are probably about to miss that window. I understand that the wheels of council move relatively slowly sometimes, and that work in the marina is nearly completed. But I still just felt it was worth highlighting today. Both the wharf in Diamond Harbour and in Akaroa are very high traffic areas. We have over 100,000 Christchurch residents catching the Diamond Harbour ferry each year. That's over 100,000 people stepping off the boat onto some slippery wooden stairs on the other side. Cruise ships alone bring over 150,000 passengers into Akaroa. These are high numbers which are putting strain on the ageing assets, and if there's any chance, I urge you to bring those forward. Thank you.
Thank you. When the development at Littleton's complete and the cruise ships come back to Littleton, do you think that there will be an ongoing desire for cruise ships to still go, or the smaller ones in particular, to go into Akaroa? Because I mean, it has been voted, I don't know how many times, as the most popular destination by the passengers. And that's across Australasia.
Yeah, look, it's a ongoing conversation. Everyone's got their thoughts on that, and you've hit it on the head there. The passengers love Akaroa. They like the scenery. They love the port. But if you talk to a lot of shipping agents, if they've got a wharf to tie up to, that is what they would prefer to do. It makes their operation easier. Yeah. My feeling is we'll get a split. And everyone's looking into their crystal ball. My personal opinion is probably about 60-70% come to Littleton, with leaving about 30% still going into Akaroa. So still a cruise industry coming through the town.
Yep, good. Phil, Andrew.
Thank you. Your comments about Diamond Harbour Wharf are concerning, of course. So are you really, and especially with people tripping as you comment, so are you really talking about that the decking should be levelled first as like the initial work that needs to be done, and then a pontoon is like a later solution? Yeah, I guess, and sorry, I should have brought a presentation with some photos, would have helped, but at the Diamond Harbour Wharf, you've got stairs running down, so depending on the tide, depends on where the boat ties up. So that means that roughly half the time, half of those stairs are underwater, which means that then when the passengers are stepping off, they're slippery. So the council does a adequate job in trying to maintain those, keeping them clean and not slippery. But also it means that there's a gap between the boat and the wharf, and the boat is moving up and down. When you compare that to the floating pontoon we have in Littleton or the ones in Akaroa, the boat sits flush with the land, and there's actually no gap. You could wheel a wheelchair on and off in Littleton, but you wouldn't have a show getting a wheelchair off in Diamond Harbour.
Very good. Andrew.
Thank you. Phil asked exactly the question that I was going to ask, but just as a follow-on from that, clearly there are some accessibility challenges with the current Diamond Harbour Wharf. Do you think that does affect people's choice as to whether they use the ferry, and in fact whether they choose to use the ferry only in certain weather conditions? Do you think people avoid using the public transport network as a result of the shortfalls of the Diamond Harbour Wharf?
Yeah, look, I think it's a combination of things, but I definitely think that comes into it. But then it's the then linking infrastructure as well, so the getting from the ferry to the bus and then into town, I think also has a large part. But yeah, definitely, obviously we consider the wharf to be a concern.
Very good. Vicky. Ooh, 25 seconds.
How much are these floating roofs?
Yeah, that's also a good question. I had some very high-level finger in the air type conversations with some people, and they estimate somewhere in the region of 200,000 to 400,000 to erect one in Diamond Harbour. I believe, and council staff would probably have better figures, that the two that were built in Akaroa back in 2010 cost considerably more than that, and as in millions to complete, but that's also just, yeah, I don't have a fixed number on that one, sorry.
That's good. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.